Loud. Welcome to our weekend call, Bucky weekend call for September 3rd and 4th. And we're going to be talking about Bucky again today. Manu, how are you feeling and what do you expect out of today's call?
I feel good. I'm happy that I'm in the call anyway. Susan, welcome. Joe was talking about some very interesting things about voltage, effect, and things like that. Anyway, what I expect is for us to progress on the list of the disciplines and see where it takes us. Susan, how do you feel? What do you expect?
I feel very clean. Sorry, I was just running out from the shower. I'm happy to be not working and happy to be with you guys most of all. Always love having the time to spend looking at Bucky perspective and application. So I had one of the youngsters that works at my recovery place came in and sat with me in the sauna for a while. We were talking about some of the geometry of thought ideas, and his mind was blown. But yeah, we'll see if the youngsters pick it up and do anything with it. Joe, how do you feel? What are you interested in getting out of today?
Oh, we've got you on mute, sweetheart.
I don't have them on mute.
So I feel very fortunate to be here today. I'm always a little bit tired at this point in the weekend, and but every time I see your smiling faces, I really do get a lot of energy from that. So that's it really does mean a lot, and this call means a lot to me. So I appreciate everybody being here, and I'm just hoping to progress through Utopia and Oblivion, and continue to build on some of the things that we talked about last week. We talked about how there are non-simultaneous experiences, some of the stuff that we've gone through in the past, but nonetheless still had some new insights. So Steve, how do you feel, and what do you look to take away from today?
Well, I'm excited to be here. I'd be glad to get some feedback on that Google Calendar to make sure that everybody's getting the calendar. And because some of you guys are getting it, Manu's not, he's only getting half of them. But the butlers are getting them, and they're declining or accepting based on their actual ability to attend. Butlers have declined for today for some reason. But that's the only feedback I'm getting. And I've been watching YouTube videos on how to make Google Calendar events work. So I'm open for feedback. And let's make sure that everybody is getting contacted. And maybe what I can do is I'll take the time to send out the invitation next time. And then I'll send an individual email. I'll take the invitation and forward it to each individual person and ask them personally to acknowledge receipt, and just so that I can know that they're getting them, because that very concerns me. I'm really grateful for the core of us that are here. I feel like it's the three musketeers and D'Artagnan, and I'm not sure which one of us is D'Artagnan. It could be Susan, but but I'm delighted that we're all here. And I really love this idea of looking at the nature of what is, the nature of reality, and the nature of thought, and the nature of design. And we're working on, with Bucky's book, Design Discipline, Utopia or Oblivion, and how it's our choice. And just as kind of an overview, he's working on 14 dominant concepts. And we've been going through each one of these. Last week, as Joe stated, we talked about general theory, general system theory. And this week we're talking about industrialization. And we're putting this into the concept of these are all the elements that are going to make the world be Oblivion, go into Oblivion or go into Utopia. So that's exciting. And to continue that, we have our book here that we're reading. And And there we are starting with industrialization. Joe, if you would like to break, I'll even read, or we could swap off, or
Why don't
you
we
can
s-
go for it.
We could, I'll start and we can
Okay,
swap
we'll
off.
swap off a little bit.
or
Okay,
not,
very, very good.
We'll split the John Butler duties.
Yeah, we'll split those.
Do I have to speak with an English accent?
Yeah.
No, I'm just saying,
Well, he might be insulted. He's Australian, so
I'm sorry, Australian accent. I should, yeah, but
yeah.
it's still
I
better
mean,
than an American
those
accent.
guys down under are rebels, right?
Can you edit that part out? Actually,
I'm sure I can. Just send me a
Thanks.
$20 bill. We'll see what we can do.
Well, I don't know. I'm not that worried about it, but I was just asking for a favor.
Yeah.
Okay, concept 7, industrialization. Definition in terms of tools. Differentiation of the tools of industrialization in contradistinction to craft tools. Industrialization only operates as a world around system. Its inherent economic accountability as energy, M, matter, plus energy, R, radiation, plus intellect, I, plus frequency, F, of evolutionary design advancements. Industrialization is the externalized complementation of man's interior metabolic regeneration organism. That's pretty clear.
Yeah. So usually when there's an italic section at the beginning of a chapter or section, this is kind of an overview kind of thing. It's interesting to me that you picked this out as intellect 1, or well, and I thought it's a backslash typo or something. So
I,
yeah, because none of these are italic, none of those are.
But it's like frequency. Did I say 1 instead of I?
I don't know.
Because it's an I.
Okay,
Because
good.
it's energy R, intellect I, frequency F.
And now that, of course, I've said that, I've embarrassed myself because all of the alpha coding at the end of his little formula here is non-italic. So that would be an I for intellect. Good.
all good.
But have you seen the two dualities that are there? And
Go
do you
ahead.
see that the plus means spherical, is additive in a way that meshes that we used to say. See, do you see that?
That the, say it again, Manu. It's spherical.
Okay. This is it.
Right?
You have energy and matter.
Okay.
Just put it there. You have radiation and matter,
Right.
a duality.
I see.
Intellect and frequency.
It's intellect and frequency, another duality.
Agreed.
Intellect
Okay.
means integrating things. Frequency means you see the divisions.
Yeah. And he often refers to intellect and mind as a process of tuning in.
Okay.
Tuning
So
in.
he has put there what you call a quantum of thought, a tetrahedron.
Okay.
So a quantum of thought industrialization.
So if we break out the formula, there's the formula being broken out.
Yeah.
And frequency of evolutionary design element advancements.
Actually, you have to put energy and matter
on the same
as well
line,
on one line, in my opinion. It will give
because it's a duality, and you need to
Yes.
put this on a line.
Yes.
Okay.
Intellect and frequency, what would be the leading and lagging indicator in that case?
Well, he's going to explain it down below. We can speculate now, or we can just continue to read and come to the happy part. Shall we do that? Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, okay. I was just thinking one would be like related with words and the other would be related to numbers.
Well, and that's cool. Let's see.
Okay.
Oh, geez.
No, we can come, we can keep reading.
Yeah, I was going to read. I'm just trying to master the computer. Okay,
Yeah.
here we go. I define industrialization as the extracorporeal organic metabolic regeneration of humanity. That's interesting right there. And because I'm reading and because I'm on this computer, I'm going to just put it right there. Industrialization is an extracorporeal organic metabolic regeneration of humanity. Okay, industrialization consists of tools. All the tools are externalizations of originally integral functions of humans. I've been studying this for a long time. Like a hammer is an extension of a hand or a fist, right? A screwdriver is an extension of a finger, right? All tools are externalizations of originally integral functions of humans. A computer is an extension of our brains, that kind of thing.
That's like technology, essentially.
Yeah. Well, all tools. And
Right.
technology is a tool. A hammer is a tool. A word is a tool. Yeah, they're originally integral functions, and we then come up with tools. I divide all tools into two main classes: craft tools and industrial tools. The craft tools consist of all the tools that can be invented and produced by one man starting and operating alone nakedly in the wilderness. He just is so dramatic, right? I define the industrial tools as all the tools which cannot be produced by one man. Oh, how cool is that? The steamship Queen Mary, the giant dynamo. I've actually been on the Queen Mary. It's stationed in Long Beach, California, and I've been down there. They use it as a resort hotel right now. And I've seen the gold fixtures and stuff. Oh my gosh, it's beautiful. The giant dynamo, the concrete highway, New York City, or even the lowly but modern forged alloy steel carpenter's hammer with electro-insulated plastic handles, whose alloy components and manufacturing operations involve thousands of men and the unique resources of several countries on Earth. Again, his gendered language, I'm sure that if he were alive today, he'd be a little bit more sensitive, and he would say "human beings." I think he would use that term. Okay, any comments or questions on the two kinds of tools, craft tools and industrial tools? Comments, questions? Okay, let's continue.
By man definition, the spoken word, which can only be invented by two or more men, was the first industrial tool. This is reminiscent of the biblical account. In the beginning was the word. In my experience, the praised concepts, the scriptural statement needs to be modified to read: in the beginning of industrialization was the word. Crafts are limited to a single man and involve only very local resources and very limited fragments of earth and time. Industrialization, though they relayed experience of all men, permitted through the industrialization of the spoken individualization, I'm sorry, yes, of the spoken and written word, involves all experiences of all men everywhere in history.
Wow. I'm almost prepared to chop this up and put his craft tool definitions and then put all these things underneath it, and then put his industrial tool definitions, and then put these things underneath it to kind of group things to group, because I like things grouped together. But that's all very interesting. Any comments or questions on that? I would like to say that I noted that the first tool, that a word was a tool, and that word is technology. And he brings up that words are actually a key element of this.
Why would he have in the beginning of industrialization was the word?
Yeah.
I don't
Because
get.
in the beginning, there were two. And that two was the word.
Yeah. He's extrapolating metaphorically from the very beginning of a time to the very beginning of industrialization, I think. He's not saying that the beginning was industrialization, because for a few 100 million years or a few billion years, there weren't any tools at all. It was just bubbling goo and interrelationships and energies that were, opposing each other, and magnetic forces that were opposing and attracting, and other kinds of energy forces. But he's trying to say, okay, back then in the beginning was the word, but I'm going to tell you that in the beginning of industrialization was the word. Without the word, industrialization would not have occurred.
Okay.
That's what I'm reading. Anybody else? What do you think? You can argue with me. I don't know anything.
That's why it's the first tool, because you have more than one individual coming together, and they
Right.
need to be able to effectively communicate. I mean, we can make some charades, right? I mean, there's paintings on the inside of caves, which were there before necessarily words, but the words were things that could be memorized and passed down. They were things that could be used to organize people around tasks. And so, yeah.
So if we were walking around in the old days and you said lion, I'd be ready. You and I would be ready for lion. As long as I knew what lion was, we'd be ready.
Well, that's why it gets defined by the two. It's
Exactly.
us making an understanding.
Yeah. So it doesn't matter how smart Joe is. If he can't communicate to somebody, it doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. And I think, Joe, this goes back to your voltage concepts that you brought up before the call. It's very much the same thing. It takes two. And to your point, it's got to be scalable, but it starts with two.
That's right.
Okay. Any other points on this?
I would like you to talk about that scale here.
Go
By
ahead.
the very fundamental of it, scale means involves spherical, isn't it?
Yes.
It involves
Horizontal and vertical.
Yeah. At least 2 dimensions.
At least 2 dimensions. That's right. It actually can be 1-dimensional, but it should be 2. I think it can scale.
And you get an other in a single dimension.
Yeah, so something can scale across different states on a very small scale, but vertically it would be in numbers.
Mm-hmm.
It would include everybody. So there's 2 ways of scaling. Yeah.
It blows me away that he says here, his last sentence in that paragraph, industrialization through the relayed experience of all human beings and permitted through the individualization of the spoken and written word involves all experiences of all human beings everywhere in history. Industrialization involves all experiences of all human beings everywhere in history. Ooh, that's a pretty broad scope. He's going very macro there.
Yeah, but it's going to what is defined as universe, isn't it?
Yeah.
Remember the definition of universe?
I remember some of them.
Maybe you can read it again.
Read the sentence again.
This sentence with the definition of universe, and that's what he said. Universe is all the known.
Can I have an experience and not know it? I think I can have an experience and it can be an unknown. And of course, universe is only known according to his strict cosmic hierarchy.
But your awareness of the experience accounted in the universe. You, Steve.
I think the only way you get to that is with general anesthesia.
Ooh, tell me more.
You would have an experience and hopefully you would not know, but the evidence of it would be in your body and potentially in your mind.
Yeah.
Mm,
But it's the suspension of consciousness is what we're going for there. And by part of that definition is also suspension of forming of new memories and amnesia is part of a general.
And because of Stuart Hameroff and other dudes, people are looking at this anesthesia, noticing that consciousness seems to go away.
Just like when you
Temporarily.
sleep, hun.
Well, when I'm sleeping, I can have dreams and remember them, but when I go under an anesthesia, do I have dreams?
Apparently not. When
You don't remember any dream in your deep sleep. You don't remember.
I don't
When
know.
your body, any dream. But now I don't know. Maybe you might say that there's no dream. Some people might say there's no dream. I don't know. But you don't remember anything when you are in your first phase deep sleep.
when you're so by that he means delta, which is down 1 to 3 hertz on the brainwave activity. There's very few individuals that can be conscious in delta. We have documented them, but it's usually you think about those as very evolved masters. It's incredibly unusual.
And that's why to say that if I'm in deep sleep, I don't remember. If I'm a master, I certainly could remember what was going on. I think whales live in delta and theta, and they're conscious and could be the most intelligent creatures on the planet.
But we don't know if they
live or have a brain. The structure to have their brains have, they live on half, the other half is sleeping. And the other half.
Yeah, they
We
sleep
don't have.
on half their brain at a time. Yeah.
Yes.
And the reason why they do that is because they kind of remember to breathe. Dolphins do
Yeah.
the same thing. So when dolphins sleep, left side sleeps, the right side stays awake enough to breathe. And then the right side sleeps and the left side stays awake enough to breathe. So we do know that. But I don't think we know much about theta and delta. And masters seem, when have they checked out these masters in our time?
Yeah. That's how we know what their brainwave states are. If we looked at them 100 years ago, we wouldn't have had the.
Oh, that's right. The technology to do it. Duh.
But we're saying something very interesting here. In the non-simultaneity and non-overlapping, because when Steve is in the delta stage sleeping, we only know it because I'm not in. And I'm there to remind Steve that you were in that state.
Okay.
Isn't that beautiful? And that is universe. What do you call? I would call it evolutionary universe. That definition of Bucky. It is evolutionary universe.
Yeah.
It's because it is around. It went from Steve to me, around, come back to Steve. Reminding him that, hey, dude, you had this operation and they put you to sleep. You can't even remember what it was. Maybe you can feel the pain of operation when you come out of anesthesia, but that is it.
It turns out that it is important to have multiple factors. You want to have relaxation, you want to have analgesia, lack of pain, and you'd like to not remember. So interesting, that we want to be good protectors. So I don't want to make it so that you don't remember, but I want to mediate the pain that's being caused.
Yeah. And I think that anesthesia, the relationship to anesthesia and consciousness is really going to be it's going to be the arena in which some element of consciousness that has not been understood before will be understood. Stuart Hameroff is absolutely confident about that. But you know what? I've been practicing dreaming, dream journaling, and lucid dreaming and hypnagogia for the last 3 years. And so as we talked about this, I quickly did a Google and I asked a crazy question. I said, my Google search was, is hypnagogia in delta or theta? And it says right here, theta is one of the more elusive and extraordinary brain states you can explore. It is also known as the twilight state, which you normally only experience fleeting upon waking, hypnopompic, and drifting off to sleep, hypnagogia. And I've been practicing hypnagogia. Now, this reminds me that I'm using the terms wrong, because I use hypnagogia as when I'm waking up, and I should be using hypnopompic. Duh. Boy, are you guys smart. I am
Wait a
suddenly
minute, you
gonna
should be
even
using hypnopompic when
pompic.
you're pompic when you're waking up.
And
The
yeah,
topic.
when I'm waking up in the morning, upon waking, that's hypnopompic, or drifting off to sleep is hypnagogia. Now,
Right.
I've studied hypnagogia in the context of Carl Jung, and Carl Jung practiced hypnagogia all the time. And when I learned about hypnagogia from Carl Jung, from the guys who taught me about Carl Jung, they talked about it as a morning activity as he was waking up. So they were misusing the terms. So I'm really excited to hear this. Now, this is from corrosion-doctors.org. So we're sure it's an absolutely legitimate source of information.
So Steve, if you're ever interested, maybe next time I get up to Salt Lake, I have a piece of technology that can induce alpha and theta. If
Okay,
you want to
wonderful.
have
Wow.
a prolonged theta experience,
Is that the app you were telling me about?
the new concept.
Yeah.
So it's
Can
amazing.
you put your, sorry. So, can you put your definition on again, Steve?
My what?
Definition.
The definition of the
all right.
theta.
I'll put it in the chat. Okay.
Okay.
And then what else will I do? Because there's another one down here that's even more interesting, or equally interesting. And let me put this link together here. Copy link address. I'll put that right there. So that's the whole link address. And this one here says hypnagogia, and this is healthline.com. So obviously it's a legitimate website. What is hypnagogia? The state between wakefulness and sleep. And see, they use the term, I think hypnagogia is used generally to refer to both hypnopompic, and I think they use the word hypnagogic as more of a master term. Hypnagogia is the transition state consciousness between wakefulness and sleep. It's the opposite of hypnopompia. There we go, which is a transitional state that occurs before you wake up. Oh, this is so contradictory. During hypnagogia, it's common to experience involuntary and imagined experiences. It's also possible to have voluntary experiences. I, in fact, the night before last had a lucid dream. I knew I was dreaming. I was monitoring the dream. I said, oh, this is cool. I want to get back in there and do this again. And so I redreamed the dream and went through certain parts and emphasized those certain parts. So this is called lucid dreaming. I've been practicing this for like 3 years and studying it for like 25. These are referred to as hypnagogic hallucinations. Up to 70% of people experience these hallucinations, which can appear in the form of sights, sounds, or even feelings of movement. Muscle jerks, sleep paralysis, and lucid dreams are also common during hypnagogic phase. Let's break down the science behind hypnagogia and examine what you may experience during this state and look at why some world's famous thinkers have tried to induce it. There are many. Paul McCartney wrote 2 songs while he was asleep. Let It Be and Michelle were both written as he was waking up and going to sleep. And so anyway, so this is an interesting article. So I will put this in the chat and then give you the link for this one too.
Mhm.
What just happened?
It froze, I think.
I don't know what I did. It didn't capture it like I thought it would.
So
There we-
Edison would lay down to
Right.
kind of go to sleep with a wooden ball in either hand and pie plate underneath.
Yeah,
So that he would be woken up right as he drifted off.
Right.
because he wanted to stay in that state of not being asleep. And if he dropped it or that sound occurred, it would wake him up. In hypnotherapy, one of the techniques when I'd have people do closed eye processes, if they were laying on a couch or if they were laying on the floor, I'd have them put their arm up at a 90-degree angle. And then as they started to go to sleep, their arm would go down. And I'd say, if you start to go to sleep, your arm goes down, I'll just go pick it up and raise it back to 90 degrees. Don't be shocked. Don't be alarmed. And do you all give me permission to touch your hand now so that I can do that for you? So I would do that in those workshops. Any other thoughts or comments? Gee, what a wonderful, marvelous excursion. Okay. Is it my turn or your turn, Joe?
I'll keep going.
Okay.
Where did we stop? The fundamental?
Yeah, I think they're right there. The fundamental.
The fundamental material resources of industry consist of 92 regenerative chemical elements, 91 of which randomly around the Earth. They are randomly disposed around the Earth at an average distance of halfway around the Earth from any given resource marshaling point. The processes of industrialization take the resources from where they occur and progressively separate them from their gross one matrix and forward them halfway around the world for further refinement and distribution. Halfway around the Earth, the resources attain maximum separation. Thereafter, they are reassembled in preferred alloys and in preferred machines and structures. They are also associated and invested in progressively major tool complexes. The vast initial total cost of industrialization has to be amortized by those who need the products. Therefore, the products and services of industrialization must be mass produced and distributed to people all around the Earth to widely distribute the capital and overhead costs.
I'm trying to get there.
That's okay.
God. There we go.
Okay. The latter thus becomes almost negligible sums, simply the cost per pound of the product. In order to obtain enough customers to subdivide the cost, it is necessary to go all around the Earth, which means that they are centrally produced which means that the centrally produced machine structures, etc., must now be distributed halfway around the Earth again. The logistics of industrialization therefore involves both inbound and outbound transportation halfway around the world, twice per unit of industrial accounting. Industrialization is inherently comprehensive and interrelated in respect to all humanity and all of humanity's ecological environment. This includes the sun and moon and all physical phenomena. Industrialization embraces many alternate systems and their operates, which range from their operators, which range from private businesses to sovereign nations, work inadvertently towards ultimately providing all men with higher standards of living. Although total industrialization often negatively competitive subsystems may be motivated locally by short-sighted monetary or political profits and ambitions to totally inadvertently results in evolutionarily changing the total environment to even higher advantage of all men and works towards the ultimate enjoyment, and something just went up on the screen, ultimate enjoyment of all Earth by all men, all both economically and physically successful without any mutual interferences or deprivations.
Comments and questions. Wow, that's quite the mouthful, huh?
Yeah, that is, but it's very important what he's hitting on.
Read again. Maybe.
Yeah. I mean, I find it interesting, the subsystems part, but we can come to that in a minute.
Well,
can get to-
what I found interesting was he kept talking about halfway around the world, and I'm wondering if he's like being metaphorical. I mean, he's definitely practical. Go ahead, Susan. What were you thinking? You have a comment on it.
He said wherever you're at, halfway around the world in one direction and halfway around the world in the other direction means you've circumnavigated the globe.
That's right, all the way around the
It
world.
included all the possibilities.
Yeah.
So that's what I got out of that.
Yeah, but I mean, technically, I could take the oil pumped out of Utah, refine it here in Utah, and use it here in Utah, and it wouldn't have to go halfway around the world. But I think what his point is that industrialization is it's a global phenomenon, and it works best in a global environment. And it's kind of predictive in a way because he's kind of predicting globalization here.
It
I think-
only works in a global environment, I would say. It's very hard to do that locally, everything locally.
I guess that's true. If the gas being pumped out,
I mean, you
drilled
can
out
have
of-
one resource, but you're not going to have all your resources.
That's right.
Okay, let's think about it this way. Let's look at the macro first. When you look at macro, let's just say the solar system. From the sun, how do you see Earth?
A blue dot.
No, but you see it in two phases, isn't it? You see it day and shade. If your referential were the sun, and light is being beamed from the sun towards Earth, you see one phase and the other one, what Susan was saying. Now, yes, if you look at it that way now, how is it that you have to think? Remember that industrialization was the externalization of that global integrity or whatever of the way energy operates by man in order to operate in a way that makes sense. If you go back to the definition of what you put at definition of industrialization, you say the accountability of it is matter plus radiation plus intellectual and plus frequency. So it was the marriage of energy as matter and radiation with thinking as intellectual and the frequencies and patterns. Did I say bullshit here?
That's a what?
I said, did I BS here?
No, I mean, if you did, I don't have the ability to say that.
No, I'm just saying, I'm just trying to bring that back to this accounting that he put here. He says industrialization only operate as a world around system.
Yeah.
It's inherently its inherent economic accountability is matter plus radiation plus the intellectual and plus frequency.
Yeah. The frequency of evolutionary design advancements.
Advancement.
Yeah.
I was just saying that he's starting here from what is always advised, start from the macro.
Mm-hmm.
Because you look at before you look at the micro, start from the macro.
You know, there's an insight that's been coming to me, and what you're saying, Mano, just really rings that bell. I have been practicing seeing everything as energy. If I hold up this glass, my little glass jar here of tea, I've been just meditating and pondering as I drink this. I am drinking energy out of an energy container. Everything is energy. And because I was a little kid, I bumped into tables and doors. I began to experience myself as separate from the tables and doors. And if I didn't consider myself as separate, I'd just walk into the table or walk in the door and I'd bump my head and hurt myself. So in order to protect myself, I started separating myself. I don't see myself as energy. I don't see this glass as energy, and I don't see the drink that's inside of it as energy. But I've been meditating, practicing awareness. Oh, that's just another kind of energy. And I kind of like, I don't mean to sound too crazy, but like I'll look at something and say, and look at it like with X-ray eyes and say, can I see the different layers of energy here rather than being blocked by the actual physical matter that my brain wants to use. If I'm an inventor, I'm going to see ways to make this glass jar into different things because I see it as energy. So I'll learn that, I can take the bottom and the top off and I can make a funnel or I can make a tube. And then I have a different use. So in a way, when an inventor, and how many times have I heard an artist say, well, I looked at this piece of stone and it spoke to me and told me what I was supposed to carve it into. Like the energy is there. And if I'm an artist, I tune into the energy and the things I do to that rock are based on the message the rock is giving me, on the energy the rock is giving me. If I'm just a normal guy, I'm going to say, well, here's a damn rock, get it out of the way. It's blocking my road. I don't know. I'm thinking out loud, this idea of looking at everything as energy instead of as matter. And I think that's one of the benefits of this formula here. Because here's matter, which is energy, which is matter, but then there's energy that's radiation. So like, here's the stone and here's the message that it's giving to the artist. It's radiating this message. I want to be Michelangelo, There's my thoughts, comments, questions.
You see my comment on the chat?
I didn't.
On the chat?
Yeah.
Matter and radiation are always intertransform. Energy flows and always flows. Intellect seeks to comprehend and apply into designs or patterns that are anti-entropic.
Yeah. When you talk about frequencies are identified as patterns.
Right.
That's what distinguishes.
Yeah.
So the intellect. So you have the macro, which is all around us. There's all this energy. It's always flowing. It's always flowing to the line of least resistance. That we know. That is one duality. Here we are from our local with intellect. The mind is projecting out,
Right.
around, seeking to comprehend what is going on. And once we comprehend, or in the seeking to comprehend it, we apply it. We talked about it last week, about understanding and applying.
Right.
And then so you are applying in a way that you have identified patterns that you use anti-entropically. And that's what makes actual fact evolution. Remember that evolution is evolution of our universe, is evolution of our understanding of what's going on. Because what is going on is there.
Yeah.
We tend to confuse. I mean, some people say, let's save the earth. Especially in the environmentalist,
Movement.
Yes. No, we have to save ourselves. The earth is there. with or without us, it will go into another phase. But it is there. What is sure is going to outlast us. Right? So it's very important to me that we understand universe as the sum total of all our experiences and understandings.
Yeah. This reminds me of what Susan back last year sent out an email on type 1 and type 2 evolution, which seems to be going along directly with this idea of craft tools and industrial tools. And I have it here in front of me, and I'll highlight it. I'm going to put it in edit mode here. That didn't edit. Is this going to edit? No, that's autocorrect. That's edit. Okay, there we go. And so class 2 evolution, if you want to explain this, Susan, please do. There's class 2 evolution, and here is class 1 evolution. Do you want to talk about that, Susan?
Well, pretty straightforward. Class 2 evolution is doing all the right things for all the wrong reasons, or for some of the wrong reasons. It's just we as human beings get into motion, we get into action. And then the type 1 evolution is that the things that are going to move evolution forward then spin out of that. So we look like we're running around like ants on a sidewalk, and then all of a sudden something beautiful comes out of that possibility.
Yeah, class 1 is all unexpected invention of verbal oral sound communication.
But
Anyway.
Steve, look at it at the first line of class 1. I think
Yeah.
that a very important word is utterly transcendental to any
Yeah.
human.
To any human vision.
It is there. It is there. The evolution of energy is the evolution of energy. You can't do anything about it.
Yeah.
We just know a bit of it. We just know a bit of it. And we've been seeking to know more of it. But all we know is that it's all over, it's doing its thing. We don't understand all what it's doing. It is transcendental to us.
Yeah. Comments or questions?
Forward that to me again.
What's that?
Can
Forward
you
this
forward
to
that?
you?
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I'm thinking about doing is just putting it in the chat.
The whole thing?
Yeah, I'll just do it one paragraph at a time. It'll go in. Yeah, see, that went in. And
That's
here's the
okay.
next one. Bammo, there's that one. And here's this one. I'm sure it'll go in.
We can save your chat, right?
Yeah, and then the chat goes out in the email. That way I don't have to attach any special documents. I don't mind attaching special documents, but every time I attach something special, I have a story in my saying, well, nobody's going to click down. I'm spending all this time and nobody's going to
Go to
download.
the bottom.
Yeah. You know what? I don't think that whole thing's going to go. So I'm going to go to there. Yep. See, it didn't go. And maybe I can put this part in last. Nope. That's it for that chat. And then that's it for this chat. Bam. So put those two together as one paragraph. Can you get this then, Joe? Is that good enough?
Yeah, yeah, that's fine.
Okay, thank you. And I'll be happy to forward it. If anybody wants this email from Susan forwarded to them, I'm sure that Susan will be happy and I'll be glad to do that. And all she's done here is she's got in the critical path and pulled out some quotes. So if anybody wants this email, then please, I'll go ahead and send it to Joe and to Manu right now. You don't want it back at you, do you, Susan?
I think I'm okay.
Okay, I thought so too. Okay, good. So out that went. It's both in the chat and not. And I guess we can now continue to read, eh?
Yeah, I think
Go ahead.
maybe even covering some of the parts that we have read a little bit too.
What would you like to do, Joe? How far back?
Um,
What do you want to do?
Maybe I mean I want to talk about. I have to see the text up there.
Okay. Let's look at it one more time. Here's where this is a big long paragraph. So it started.
Right, and it talks about industrialization. Industrialization embraces many alternate systems and their operators, which range from private businesses to sovereign nations, work inadvertently towards ultimately providing all men with higher standards of living. Yeah, that part I kind of get. Oh, although total industrializations often negatively competitive subsystems may be motivated by locally short-sighted monetary and political profits and ambitions to inadvertently results in evolutionarily changing in total environment to ever higher advantage of all men and works towards ultimate enjoyment by earth. That's so that those subsystems actually even it's interesting. That's exists in even in organizations. They'll create people will create subsystems to solve a problem without thinking about what the bigger problem is that they're trying to solve. And that happens outside in economies too, where people create these subsystems to solve local problems without thinking kind of on a macro level. And it's a big issue. It costs a lot of money. A lot of people. So we bought a whole enterprise system one time at work, but it was dysfunctional for what a lot of people needed to do. So they created these subsystems that were completely inefficient and that were a higher cost.
Yeah.
And it was a competitive, like, I mean, it's a negatively competitive subsystem that is motivated by short-sighted monetary or political profits, but it's just motivated by short-term thinking. It's just like I have to get something done, and somebody didn't properly plan on a macro level, and so now these subsystems were created. I don't know. Anyway, it's
No,
worth mentioning.
listen, I think your point is absolutely well taken. Like, for example, we have a system called human health, and then we have these pharmaceutical companies that have created the subsystem based on profit margins, and they're distributing vaccines. And so that subsystems becomes like it's based on short-term profit, short-sighted monetary and political gains, ambitions, and the total inadvertently results in evolutionarily changing the total environment to an ever higher advantage of all men and works towards ultimate enjoyment of life is left behind. And I think that what you're saying is critical. I think our whole economic system is based on these subsystems. Like Facebook. We have this desire to communicate. So we create something like Facebook, and all of a sudden it becomes a subsystem, and it starts running the world. The basis was to connect people, but now all of a sudden it's in charge of stuff. Same with, the medical industry. It's very difficult to find, to find a doctor who's not just pushing the pill because they're going to get sued if they don't. Isn't that interesting?
Well, it is actually interesting in that it's a system in itself that's driving
Right.
an answer to a problem.
Let me put some fun into this. Look in the chat box. What do you think?
I was wondering what you meant by your math equation.
Design
I don't know.
and built
Quality is
environment.
crazy. Yeah.
92 equals 48 times 2.
We're going to expose Manu's communication here.
Minus, okay, there we go. All right.
Can you, look at the Bucky, the geometry, and tell me what you think?
Let's see. Well, it's 96.
Okay,
Minus 4.
let's start
Yeah,
from-
minus
from-
4. Yeah, minus the 4, and then that's 92.
Okay.
Then, yeah.
Oh, I'm oblivious. Manu, go ahead and explain it.
Okay, let's start with our famous thing, the tetrahedron, right?
Mhm.
Right.
First and second derivation, what do you have? First derivation, you have 4 tetrahedra and an octahedron. We're talking about element. First derivation of a tetrahedron by cutting half and half. You have 4. You remember that? You have 4 tetrahedra
Right.
and an octahedron, an implied octahedron in the middle,
Okay.
right? That is the
Yep.
4 that you have there. And then the octahedron, we could divide it into three ways. You remember that? Why is everybody looking at me as I'm coming from?
Because
I'm talking about numbers and I'm not connecting, so I got.
yeah, I'm
No, just okay. You take a tetrahedron. You take a tetrahedron, you can divide into 4.
right.
You have 4 tetrahedra, right?
Mhm.
And you have an octahedron in the middle.
Right.
If you now, we saw also that you could halfway cut the octahedron into 3 ways,
Okay.
3 planes,
Right. 3 planes, yeah.
right?
Mhm.
That 4 times 3 is 12. Okay?
Okay.
And then you can repeat the thing for the 4 tetrahedra that you have from the first derivation.
Which is 48.
That is 48. Remember, we're talking about the elements.
Right.
Now, you have a duality. There's never one tetrahedron, there are always 2. So you have 48 times twice.
Yeah, 48 times 2, and then you're minusing 4. Where's that coming
4
from?
is the two poles.
Oh,
1 pole and 1 pole. That's why you have 92 elements. You could predict 92 elements in existence, 92 quanta of things. That means that are structures of energy.
okay.
You get what I put there?
Now, yeah, as you walk through that, yeah.
Yeah, but he said it
I
at
see
the
where you
beginning.
get. Oh,
There are 92 elements.
oh, that's the 92 he's talking
Oh,
about. 92 and 91.
Yeah, there is 2. The table of elements is 92 elements.
Right.
Why does he say there's
Even those that we didn't have, we
Why does he
predicted
say 91?
that they will exist, maybe non-stable.
randomly distributed? So are we manufacturing one of the 92 elements?
Pardon?
Are we manufacturing one of the 92?
No, he was talking about the natural. Remember, he was looking for from the macro.
Mhm.
He's talking about the natural elements: uranium, carbon, oxygen, all of these things. There are 92. If you go back to the text, at the beginning, when he was looking at the macro, what did he say?
There's
There are
90
92 elements,
He said 91 of which
of
are
which
random.
91 we know, and there is another one, right?
Okay.
Probably the fullerenium. That wasn't known. You remember the element called the fullerenium? It was later. Bucky predicted an element that was later discovered. They call it the fullerenium. Steve, you can check the Fullerium.
How do you spell it, Manu?
Fullerium.
Oh, fullerene.
Yeah,
Oh, the fullerene. Wow. Yeah, my father was actually telling me about that.
Yeah. So
yeah.
it's a C60 molecule. It looks like a
But
Bucky ball.
you remember Bucky, read the first paragraph of when we started. Yeah, Fullerium. I say Fullerium, it's Fullerium. But let's see if we go back to the text.
Okay. Back to the text.
And you see from the beginning, from where we started today.
Okay, I'll get there.
On this paragraph, yeah, on top, yeah.
Okay, here.
The fundamental material resource consists of 92 regenerative chemical elements, 91 of which occur randomly around the world and on Earth. Where is the 92? That is second. Is the one that he predicted. That's Fullerium.
Okay,
You see that?
there's
Yeah, it's-
fullerene in Wikipedia. I'll put a link. I'll put that link in the chat. And
But do you see how his mathematics is quite the way he approaches things makes mathematics easier?
Yes.
well, I'm completely lost, so you're doing good, Joe.
It's-
Are you lost still?
Yeah, I am. I think the
No,
fuller.
you were talking. You taught us this. You discussed this thing all the way.
Yeah,
We look at the. I mean, you have 12. You can also look at it from the 12 degrees of degrees of freedom,
yeah,
and that if you have 12 degrees of freedom, and that the tetrahedron has 4 edges, four vertices.
faces.
Yeah,
And-
no, vertices.
Okay,
4 vertices.
yeah.
And then if you cut the tetrahedron, you have 4 tetrahedron plus an octahedron. Right?
If I cut up a tetrahedron, I'll have 4 tetrahedra plus a tetrahedron.
Plus an
Okay.
octahedron, an implied octahedron.
Oh, with it plus an applied octahedron. Oh, well, I think I have a picture of that.
Of course.
I don't know
surprised.
about it. Of course, I don't know about it, of course.
All right, though, I'm gonna, if we're gonna be pedantic, fullerene's a molecule. It is not an element.
Element.
So it shouldn't be on the periodic table. If I have this right, because it's an isotope of carbon. Does it make
Why is
sense?
it not an element, Susan?
I think it's a molecule. I'm not sure. Is it an element?
Okay. Right. I just caused trouble, so.
No, my brain is causing trouble.
Yeah, no. I got this pretty picture.
Yes.
This is an
Yes.
octahedron,
Yes.
and it's been
Yes.
and it's broken up into 4 octahedron and with some tetrahedrons left over.
No, I mean, you see, but when you see the way it's broken, there is broken according to 3 planes.
Yeah, I think so. One plane is down here.
Right.
Another
other one's
plane is up
in,
here.
yep.
And the other
Other-
one is through here, up that way, right? I don't know.
You can see
Going
my
out.
stuff again. You remember this?
Well, we're gonna look at his example over there.
Do you see that? We
Yeah.
talk about this all the time.
Yep.
The implied octahedron here, inside here, where my finger is.
Oh, yeah.
And then you see, if you look at this, you see the green, the red, and the blue.
You see, I go one step further because we don't have to imply the octahedron. Oh, am I fuzzy? Let me unfuzzy.
Yeah.
What we can do is I can actually cheat and open up and get my octahedron out of here because I didn't believe Manu. And
Oh,
so
that's
Okay.
right.
I actually built
That's
my
beautiful.
tetrahedron. Here's
That
my
you
tetrahedron. And this,
okay?
and this actually goes
Steve,
inside here.
yes,
Yeah,
what you've done there, you have it. The only difference is that to have the octahedron that you saw there, you see that I painted it here.
Right.
All the traces, you have a red trace, you have the blue trace, and you have the green trace, right?
yeah,
So
Well,
that is another 3 times. Those went through the octahedron.
yeah. But now if you
Those are
look here,
the octahedron.
if you look inside of mine, you'll see that's labeled 13. And then you'll see another one in there is labeled 14. I can see it, but there's 14. And then here's 2. And then here is 5 right there. And those are all labeled, and these are all labeled to match.
Exactly.
There's your 5. There's your 14. There's your whatever. That's the 13. If you look at it, it's hard. There it is, 13. That's 13. Anyway, I
Yeah.
should probably label this one as nicely as I have these labeled,
Yeah.
but that's actually the faces in there. Mano
Yeah.
taught me how to build this.
And what I was saying here is that you need, one, the principle of duality, the general principle of duality. That's the first one. And the second one, you need the 2 derivations that, you only need to transform independently to produce the most elementary, the quantum of energy. You need to transform it twice. The first transformation that I call the first derivation was to derive these 4 tetrahedron and the implied octahedron. The second transformation was that of how do you cut the remaining energy to make something that is equal to a quantum, and you cut it by this red, blue, and green. You cut it through, so you have 12 elements, right? But those 12, that same principle, you could have done it with this elementary tetrahedron that you have here, this one and that one. So you have 12 times 4 is 48. But you know that this tetrahedron didn't exist alone. There's another one that is convex. That is like that. So if there's another one, you can only also do 48 times. So you have 48 plus 48 elementary is 96. But in order to do this, we know that for each of them, you always need poles. You don't have any motion, any change without poles. So those 2 poles, you needed to fix them. You fix them, one for the first tetrahedron and another one for the second tetrahedron. That is 2, that is 4 that you knock out. You need 4 elements. You need 4 elements to make the 2 poles. So from the 96, you take out the 94, the 4. So you have 92 free that are going around there, combining and recombining. We've seen 91. Where is the 92? Where is it? So you have that periodic table, you have to fill it because you know that that period must be filled by something. So you search in to fill it. Okay, let's stop there. I don't want to confuse further discussion.
I have my brain is going apesidoodle right here. It's going wacko. And since you brought up
I don't want the guy who watched this recording and run away.
yeah. Well,
No.
here's that periodic table that we've talked about elusively.
There's flashbacks to high school.
And is Buckminster Fullering on there?
I don't know.
No, because it's not an element, it's a molecule.
No.
Yeah, agreed.
Okay, because that's what was, I know sometimes I get bent on stuff that's way at the beginning.
But supposedly, these are all based on mass, atomic mass. And so they're based on the number of neutrons and
Neutrons.
what?
Neutrons and positrons.
And positrons. And that's where you should be able to fill out this chart. And there should be one right in between there, between 21, right above 21. There should be something there. We haven't figured out where it is yet, but it's supposed to be there. Anyway, I was actually studying this periodic table about 4 months ago, and my brain now, look, mono just took my brain, and I have cauliflower up here instead of a cerebral cortex. Okay, let's go for the next paragraph. And I guess it's my turn to read. To only be fair, Joe.
That's right. Go ahead. Yep.
Right. Where did we end up? I think we ended up clear down at the end of this paragraph, right? Inferences and deprivations. Though popularly unrealized in industry is the residual high premium function of the crafts as basic tool and model makers, which permit the original realization of individuals' inventive conceptions and their translation into mass advantage gains for society. Crafts are ever less efficiently employed in the production of consumer goods, tools, and services.
So popular.
He's saying get rid of the craft tools if you really want to do efficient production. I think that's what he's saying, right? Crafts are ever less efficiently employed in the production of consumer goods. I think if he saw a 3D printer right now, he'd say, yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, sure.
You know, he said, yeah, I was thinking about that, but I didn't know how to describe it to you. I had a picture of it in my head, but I couldn't explain it to you people. Just like Elijah with the chariots of fire. I mean, you know, he just said, well, it's like a chariot of fire. And people say, oh yeah, I get it. It's a chariot with fire. But it was something else. But that's the closest Elijah could get to the chariot. And that's the closest that Bucky could get to a 3D printer. That's my editorial. Any other comments or questions? Okay. Having established that last paragraph, Joe, was humongous. So I should read another one just to get equal. Okay.
That's fair.
Having established our first 7 basic concepts, it becomes clear that there is a completely separately designed science activity, which is concerned with the anticipatory scheduling of all the complex interaction of the foregoing general systems events of industrialization. There's this separately designed science activity, completely separate, which is concerned with the anticipatory scheduling of all the complex interaction of the foregoing general system events of industrialization. Design science deals in studies of gestation rates operative in the many different constituent patterns of general world systems. Design science deals in studies of the gestation rates operative in the many different constituent patterns of general world systems. For instance, it has been learned that inventions reach industrial acceptance at very different rates. Inventions in electronics are usually employed industrially within 2 years of invention. Aeronautical inventions are generally employed after thorough testing within 5 years. There's a lag of 15 years between railroad inventions and general use. There is a 42-year lag between invention and use of craft bogged building arts. This was kind of his rant against the architects of their time. There was a 50-year lag between the first blast furnace production of steel for ships and the use of steel in a skyscraper. There was a 42-year lag between the industrial companies' byproduction of Portland cement in their subsidiary companies and the time when a piece of steel into the setting cement to disclose accidentally the principle of steel reinforcing concrete. So he's talking about the overlay of these different technologies and how long it takes to, okay, we came up with cement, but how long did it take till we came up with steel?
The blast furnace.
Yeah, we had the blast furnace, then we created steel for ships, but then there's this 55-year lag to create a steel for a skyscraper. And then after we created the steel for a skyscraper, we realized we could take some steel rods and stick them in cement and make it even better. I don't know. I think he's just ranting about how it takes time to put things together.
I think that they are, Steve, just keep.
Okay.
You know, there are very important words that is employed here that we must understand, because we're using the notion of, he says this, he said design science deals in study of the gestation rates.
Yeah, gestation rates.
Operative in the many different constitution patterns of general world systems.
Yeah.
So he has introduced here, or he's talk about gestation, rate, patterns, and lag. Very, very important. So design science is first for us to comprehend the gestation, that is the cycle. How does it evolve? We comprehend that there are many, many different cycles. So when we build systems using those things, we have to be anticipative that, you know, those cycles of certain of the element that we use will have completed after a certain while. Therefore, we have to be anticipative of the maintenance of it, replacing or upkeeping. So, for example, you take an alloy or anything that come together, say take concrete. You have concrete and you have steel. Steel has a different gestation rate as cement or concrete. So when you are building something, how do you anticipate that and use it and put in place processes, you know, systems and processes that will allow you to have that generative? In other words, how can you build something that is like a pyramid that will last 3,000 years and ensure many, many, many uses? You get what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, I think the gestation thing is really is his point. Honest, that's good.
Yeah.
It just takes a while to integrate, to become familiar with and figure out all the uses of a thing. Go ahead, Joe.
Figuring out rate and lag within that process, though, is actually
Yeah.
something that's very important as well.
Why didn't somebody just take a piece of steel and stick it in some cement right away? What took them 50 years? What took them 50 years to figure that out?
Because there wasn't steel when they first started making cement.
Maybe that's true.
Thank you for that.
Cement back in the Romans.
They had each one of those individual elements also had its own gestation period.
Right.
If I own a building that is 100, I would say 100 and officially 120 years. But if I take it as you know, take into account how long it took to build something like that, is probably the element there that are 140 years.
Yeah.
Right. And 100 and yes, it took about 10, 15 years to build something like that. And what happens is that it is when there is a small earthquake and when there is some shock, it weathers better because it used is built using fat walls.
Are you using what?
Fat walls. You know fat walls? You have bricks
Uh-huh.
and fat wall, which is clay. You know, fat wall is not kiln. The brick is not kiln.
Okay. So it's soft.
And they used to build it, they call it here fat walls. They are huge, they're big, they're large, like this. Instead of a double cavity wall of concrete. A double cavity, you have kiln bricks that you put together, and then you put strings of steel, thin steel thread in between to hold them. And they are like that. And there's a cavity, and there are whip holes at the bottom, so that if water comes in between, water can whip. It can cry out. It can flow out. They call them whip holes at the bottom, at the level of either foundation or deck, concrete deck. But those were built, and then the decking is in wood. So you find that the association of timber, clay, and steel. I'm talking about the old steel, really. You know, you have I-beams that are of humongous proportions. Holds well. If you understand that and maintain it, I'm sure it's going to be there after me. The next holder of it is going to be really happy for many, many years. You get what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, to some degree. Shall we,
Wow.
any comments on that or any questions, Tamano? Shall we continue to read?
No, that was impressive, though.
Cool. Go ahead, Joe.
The going economics accredits the merger of a dozen economic failures to produce a success. The American automobile industry was compounded out of many thousands of failures whose managements lost their credit authority, but whose energy processing real machinery assets had never failed. The accounting and speculative funding and the promotional short-sightedness and economic accrediting failed, but not the evolutionary machinery of industrialization. Industrialization is physical evolution and channeled energy transformations, which by law of energy conservation can never fail. Through traffic and interest-paying debt increases, present-day economics exploits the failure of debt crops to support the increasing numbers of humanity displaced as autonomous by automatons by automation. We are for a world economic accounting revision of first magnitude. We will switch from a negative to a positive world economic accounting.
Yeah, he's very optimistic for his utopia here, right?
Yeah, I wouldn't say those machines never failed, though, either.
Well, what he's saying is that what he's saying, though, is that as somebody developed a factory, their credit ran out or they couldn't sell the product, but they made some slight innovation, which was then used by somebody else. And so every industrial operation added something to industrial evolution.
I think he's giving a little bit too much credit to industrialization at this point, and even the supply chain.
Okay.
Or the assembly line, anyway.
Let's keep in mind that it says the current, the accounting that is used never captures synergy.
That's right.
All right.
It's somewhere there. I can't remember exactly what.
And we have to switch from a negative to positive world economic accounting.
Right. Actually, yeah. Okay.
So there's no
because
solution.
it's saying that every experience that we have is a plus in the system that we have.
Well, and you know what? A lot of people say there are no bad experiences in individual life. You know,
Yeah, that's what he's saying.
every experience I have is I learn from it and I grow from it. I don't do it again unless I don't learn.
I am
But,
going to disagree with that.
Well, the things that don't kill me make me stronger.
Okay.
I think the things that don't kill me make me stronger. I think that is true.
And believe me, even as a
Rather than
stoic who's
Steve,
supposed to be
he's-
indifferent to things, I'm going to disagree with that guy.
I think he's saying it from the point of view of humanity, of whole
Right.
humanity. And from that is even truer.
Right.
Anything, that if I fail on something, at least at the grander scale, anybody who is observing is going to take it actually positively. Because if I didn't fail, it wouldn't have learned from that. I might not personally, consciously
But somebody else might.
learn from it, but somebody would.
Yeah. I like that attitude. That's a real positive attitude. I'm going to continue reading. Because energy is wealth, the integrating world industrial networks mean ultimate access of all humanity everywhere to the total operative commonwealth of the earth. This idea of commonwealth is kind of fleeting.
Is it?
Oh yeah.
Why is that?
In Boston, we have a commonwealth. In Virginia, there was a commonwealth. I think the word commonwealth was fairly much at the time of the formation of America. The idea of commonwealth was pretty much understood. But I don't, the commons, if you ask most capitalists today what the commons are, they would say, well, anything I get a patent on is no longer part of the common. And I want that patent.
That's true.
So I just think that's a fleeting concept. Any other comments? Shall I continue? What do we know about wealth stated rigorously and only in terms of experimental science? ? Wealth cannot alter yesterday. It can only alter tomorrow and today, or today and tomorrow. Multiplication. Wow. What's that?
I say, wow.
Yeah. And he says here, because energy is wealth. That's what his opening statement is here. Because energy is wealth. That's interesting. Wealth can alter yesterday. It can only alter today and tomorrow. Multiplication of craft wealth began, as we have noted earlier, when human beings stepped into the long end of a log lying axis. Okay, when man stepped on the long end of a log lying across another log with its short end under the other big log, and saw the big log, which was too heavy for him to lift with his muscles, lifted easily by gravity, pulling his minuscule weight against the high advantage long arm of the lever. So he's just basically describing leverage. Multiplication of craft began with leverage, when people figured out how to leverage things. Multiplication of industrial wealth began when human beings fastened a set of levers radically around the hub of a wheel under a waterfall and connected the wheel with a grinding mill. Thus, he learned to stand aside from the work and, gaining perspective, to use his brain to rearrange inanimate energy patterns external to his own integral bodily energies to do more and more fundamental man-advantaging work with less and less. I'm sure he was about to say that. He did so by shunting energy patterns to impinge upon his machine levers.
I think we should ponder. This is, to me, it is so dense and so much more of what, every kind of, how will I say it? To galvanize, to do things, to encourage people has to be about. Wealth cannot alter yesterday. It can only alter tomorrow, today and tomorrow. Yesterday is already recorded. You can't change the record. We always today, talking about blockchain, in terms of integrity and things like that. It is irrevocably accounted for yesterday. All we can do is to remember it for what it was and seek to apply it. And we cannot apply yesterday, we can only apply today and shape tomorrow with that knowledge. It's so fundamental and so powerful, in my opinion.
I think so too. I mean, I wonder what Bucky would have to say about blockchain. Anyway, that's just,
I don't know,
I don't
but
know.
it is an intellect. And then further down here, you see where it says dust. Dust, it learned to stand aside from the work. That is now taking a lot to allow the intellect to work. Gaining perspective. You remember we've talked about this. How do you gain perspective? You have to be able to metaphorically jump out of a flow on the side of a river and observe the flow.
And
To learn,
apprehend.
right? To use only his brain to rearrange inanimate energy patterns, what you have observed, external to his own internal bodily energies, to do more fundamental. That is design and designing anti-entropic things. To do more fundamental man advantage work. He did so by shunting. What do you call shunting energy? You remember the experience of shunt? Whether, you know, in the experiment in elementary or high school, you shunt. You have a resistance like this, and you have voltage, energy is flowing, and then you put another impeller that has less impedance. And you see that the amperage is deflected towards that one that is thin, that has less impedance. That was we call shunting. So you are channeling. Shunting means to channel that energy into where it's most effective use for his own advantage.
Right on. We can get a little further here.
It's so fundamental.
It's
I would like
regenerative. We should come back to that even next week.
Really?
I think so.
Okay.
I think that you have to copy that and put in the
Chat. Put that in the chat. Yeah,
Yes.
definitely put that in the chat.
from wealth cannot from the first one. From wealth cannot alter yesterday.
Oh, I was thinking shunting.
Yeah, to shunting, to where it's
Shunting is
talking about.
right there.
Yeah. I found that really to the point.
Manu, when he talks about machine levers, the other thing, whenever you speak about lever, I think about fulcrum.
Mm-hmm.
And
Agreed.
so if he's talking about the machines, the tools,
Yeah.
what is busy being the fulcrum in that picture?
Yeah. When one log worked onto the other one to move a big log, that was the fulcrum. That was gears.
So just the intersection was the fulcrum.
Yeah.
What is another definition? It just come to me now of a fulcrum.
It's the tipping point.
It's a 0 point.
Mm.
Okay.
Okay. Remember the concave and the convex.
Yeah, that's where their event horizon is.
As you have where you have transformation of a flow of energy from in to out, or vice versa.
Okay. Well, I'll mark this and we'll start from here again. Okay.
Yeah.
Good. There we go. Okay. Joe, how you feeling, and what are you taking away from tonight?
I'm feeling good. I mean, we covered a lot of material. I mean, you know, if we went through the text and went through it very thoroughly. I mean, we were going over a few things, but he got into modern forms of finance, and industrialization, how systems work. I mean, we talked about also some of the physics aspects of things as well. I think that the most interesting is what we just covered, by far, especially the idea of shunting. I'm looking forward to actually coming back to that next week. And I was just looking it up myself. I mean, I know you put the definition in the chat, but I also think that there's a lot of process ideas there and how energy flows efficiently within a system that we can discuss as far as from more of a business operations standpoint. I could see where that we could maybe draw some analogies. But we covered a lot. I mean, we covered a lot. I thought the industrialization as the word was a very interesting thing as well. Primarily because, I've read a little bit about John 1 and how that idea of consciousness and to have, this is, to have one is, industrialization is to have an awareness of another, that you're working together in order to create something, is it's something I have not thought of at all. And I thought of it only from John 1, only in the sense of that how words bring consciousness and relate to consciousness, and also expand consciousness. So anyway, those are my takeaways. I mean, it was a very interesting session. This was a lot to cover. It was a lot to cover. So, Susan, my friend, thank you for joining us tonight. As always, and it's wonderful to have you here. It's wonderful to have everybody here, but how do you feel and what are you taking away?
I feel sorry because I'm a little tired. And so but maybe sometimes being a little dreamy in there is good.
Yes.
So I'm trying to thread together some of the Bucky concepts in this takeaway. So we have the word being the first industrial tool, industrial meaning it takes more than one person. So that makes a lot of sense to me. What we're talking about is wealth is energy, period. Take that sentence right there. And I think one of the things that sometimes we miss, and it came up when we did, because it's the four of us, it came up on Wednesday when Wayne was talking about his insight from Brigham Young about God put all the energy here. I mean, there's more energy that reaches this planet every single day that we can ever use. We just tend to go after, we haven't figured out how to tap into the current. We keep using the resistance of energy savings bank like oil or nuclear fuel. And we haven't figured out necessarily how to work with the energy that's coming to us in real time. So there's points about, in Bucky terms, doing more with less is leverage, but it's accelerating towards doing everything with nothing, which is ephemeralization. So there is that element of accelerating, and there's just very few things. You can't even make a human just by yourself.
Right.
So we are here in a social relationship, but the wealth belongs to all of us. And I think Bucky's observation that people may do things in their local moment that are kind of short-sighted and for all the wrong reasons, but eventually something good comes out of that. Some of those technologies then can go on to make the environment easier for other people as well, even though that wasn't the initial goal. So I think it gives us other reasons to be hopeful that human beings, by their selfish, petty, local nature, might still turn out to do some things that are potentially wonderful for everybody and for the biosphere. Manu, how are you feeling? What are you taking away?
Hi, I'm feeling, I come away with this really quite learned, and I'm really grateful to all of you. It was a very intense and dense session today. One, what I learned from this, industrialization and the link between industrialization and the sum total of our experiences and communication of that. Two, energy is wealth. And the integrating and industrial networks means ultimate access of all humanity everywhere to the total operative commonwealth of Earth. Design science deals with studies of gestation rates operative in the many different constituent patterns of general world system. The gestation rates, the understanding of that. And then also the notion that energy or wealth cannot alter yesterday, but it can only alter today or tomorrow. And then the fulcrum, Susan, thank you, that it is a 0 point, it's a point of transformation. And then the notion of shunting energy patterns to impinge upon our machine levels to leverage. And then I say, if I keep trying, I mean, this is the power of always starting from the macro, from the general, is that if I keep trying to solve, I'll fly better and my bounty will be better. If I always try to solve, to see from a larger perspective, then I'll be able to see better, to target better, to focus better, and my bounty will be abundant. And that's really, those are some of the lessons I take from here. And energy and the way Bucky puts it, in that energy, matter, radiation, the I, and the patterns. And that looks patterns or frequencies. That is, to me, a very synthesized and clear way of understanding what is going on. Maybe it was a little bit confused, but that's what I take away from here. It's a lot. And I will need to ponder again after this call, and I look forward to Steve's recording of it that is sent to us. So my dear friend Steve, how do you feel when you take away?
Well, interestingly enough, over the last few weeks, on the side, I've been in terrible fret about this ontology of profit, ontology of capitalism. And it's amazing how this chapter just kind of jumped right in on that. You know, he brings out that through that we will switch from a negative to a positive world economic accounting because energy is wealth. The integrating world industrial networks mean ultimate access of all humanity everywhere to total operative commonwealth of Earth. I don't know. I'm going to be pondering a lot of this. I mean, this whole idea that wealth is energy, and that something has to do with the accounting. And there's been a negative accounting system, and we've got to turn it to a positive accounting system so that everybody benefits from it. You know, and I've been in real estate, and the case is that the people who are down and out, the ones who don't have the job, who don't have the good credit, get the worst interest rates, get the most service fees. I mean, the system is
Yeah, that's
absolutely
true.
up down, and the guys with the money pay 0 interest and, get big loans, signature loans that are renewed every year as long as the interest is paid. I can remember when, as I moved into this realm, I owned an Audi and was doing just fine with my Audi. And one day I walked by a lot and saw a Mercedes there. And I thought, wow, that's really cool. And I'm looking at this Mercedes, just I must have been drooling or something. And my banker walked by, Bo Barlow at Central Bank. He said, Steve, you looking at your new car? I said, I wish. He said, well, come in and see me. And he gave me an interest-only signature loan, and I bought that freaking Mercedes, and the payment on that Mercedes was less than the payment was on my Audi. And the Mercedes was going up in value every year, and the Audi was going down in value every year. Now, gee,
What?
yeah,
How, I'm sorry.
yeah, it was one of my great experiences of my life. In fact, I had a gray Mercedes 2-door sedan, a 250C, on my refrigerator. And I'd been having it there for like 6 months, 8 months, almost a year. My wife kept saying, when are you taking that picture down? I ain't taking that picture down until I get the car. I'm walking down the street after lunch one day, and there's a 250C on a lot. And my banker walks by and says, come in and see me on that loan. And I signed a signature loan and paid an interest-only payment on that Mercedes. It was lower than my Audi payment was. And the Mercedes went up in value every year. And the Audi went down in value every year. What can I say?
So at what point did you resolve it?
I bought the Mercedes and enjoyed the thing. And my son tells me it made him a hit in high school. I don't know. I don't have it resolved, Susan. If I had it resolved, I would feel okay. That's why I'm really into this quest on the ontology of capitalism. What is capitalism? And I'm glad to hear that wealth is energy.
So our accounting is screwed up.
Yeah, our accounting is screwed
Our
up.
accounting is screwed up.
Yeah, and we call profit what's left over, but our accounting is screwed up.
And what is the key to that?
Huh?
What is the key to that?
I'm pondering that.
Cosmic
Learn
account.
to think by yourself.
What is
What
that?
by myself, Manu?
Learn to think by
Oh.
yourself.
Yeah,
Learn to think.
but it's better to
Bartering.
think when your banker's walking by,
Barter.
because the banker.
It's
I
going
would
to
never
a
thought
map.
to go into the bank and said, hey, give me an interest-only loan on this Mercedes. I would have never thought of that.
But that's because that banker had a bigger picture than you did of the same situation.
Exactly.
So that's the reason we get together and try and put multiple minds together, looking at
Yeah.
the same stuff. Hopefully one of us will pop up to a higher dimension. And well, that's why we're, doing the examples on application with Wayne and exchange.
Yeah.
Right.
Because by
Right.
walking through those things, he got to some higher dimensions. And when it's operationalizing some of our definitions, like control is more important than ownership. Steve, you controlled the car, you didn't own the car.
That's exactly right.
That's right.
And you got the benefit you wanted. And so when I said resolve, I was thinking at some point, did you just say that was enough and stop paying on the loan? Did you ever go ahead and pay the principal on it because the asset had appreciated?
I mean, to tell page 2 of this story, about 5 years later, the bank got audited and they were restructuring, and it was no longer a local bank. It had to be controlled by the state. And so they had me come back in and rewrite the loan, and I had to start paying principal.
But that's okay. That was enough.
Yeah, you're having too good.
Yeah, I had it too good. So I'm very excited because all this, it seems like all of my hypnagogia lately has been about this ontology of capitalism. And now here we are reading about this. So this is wonderful.
Well, Ayn Rand wrote some fabulous books from that standpoint. So
Yeah. And this is an inside thing, but hey, I got something. in
did
mail
come.
today.
Okay.
It
Have
came
you tried
today.
it yet?
No, I'm looking at it and I'm reading your email about whether to put it in my cheek or put it in my
What is
soup.
it, gum?
Yeah, almost.
Steve,
So, yeah. Oh my gosh. Is that what's
Right.
going to happen to me?
What is
Susan?
it?
it's methylene blue. So it's a blue dye. It was the first industrial, it literally was just to be a dye is how it was made, but it was also the first synthetic chemical drug. So it is, if at high doses, it's the antidote to cyanide. At lower doses, it comes in and can just be an advantage at all 4 points.
Oh, you were
Cytochromes
saying
in
that
the electron
before.
transport system, but it's antiviral, antibacterial, antiparasitic. Its first use was for malaria.
Malaria.
Yeah, it's very, and people are getting back around to it. So the drug companies went and developed all these other things, some of which now fail. And so there's, I think, some interest coming back around. So in terms of having it, Steve was feeling crummy, and it felt like, to me, like the virus was hanging around and he was having brain fog. So literally in the small doses, it can come in and advantage your mitochondria. So increase your energy level, your clarity of thought, kick the asses of some viruses and bacteria.
And each of these little squares is cut into 4 little parts.
Right, so each square is 50 milligrams.
Okay.
And so like advantageous effects would be at 1/2 to 1 milligram per kilogram. And so, Steve, I'm sure you're over 70 kilograms. You could pop a whole square, and probably if you wanted to feel a big bump, you might do a whole square.
Whew.
But start with a quarter and make sure that because I don't want you to take it on my word.
Yeah. See how my body feels with it. Yeah.
So this is something I would love to get to Kelly, but they don't ship to Australia. So maybe I'm today still struggling with this, going, okay, maybe I'm just going to buy a couple boxes and send it. It's not the most effective or cost efficient way to dose it, but it's the most convenient.
Yeah, gotcha. Well, I'm certainly grateful. I love this group. I love our journey to wherever it is.
Oh, I
And
love you guys too.
Yeah, maybe it's that we were already here and then we came to this planet, so we're just kind of remembering.
Don't
That's
close
how I
yet.
like to look at it. We're remembering.
I'm copying this because it's so important. It's true that I've saved it.
What are you copying?
What do you put in there?
Oh,
Whole paragraph.
in the chat?
Yep. Okay,
Yeah.
but
Chat,
I
you could
save
just
it.
save
I
the
save
chat.
it. I can put it on the Word.
Yeah.
I was
save
lazy.
it.
I was trying
There's-
to.
Yeah. Those of you who are watching the video, if you go down to the bottom of the email that gave you the link to this video, the chat is going to be posted there. Those of you who are on this, there are 3 little dots on the right-hand side of your chat box, and you can say save chat is one of your options right there, and it'll download it right now. Okay. I'm giving you the count of 3 to save if you want to. 1, 2, 3, but it's going to come in the email anyway.
Oh, okay.
Okay, my friends.
All right.
Until next
Good
week.
night.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.